Hi everyone, and welcome to the next segment of the Endgame series. This time we're going to look at the concept of making the right exchanges in the endgame. It was the great Tarash who said that what is important is not what is exchanged, but what remains on the board. This is certainly true, and in practice chess players face this question in virtually every game, i.e. which pieces should I exchange and which should I leave on the board. There's no simple answer to this question. It depends very much on concrete factors like the pawn structure and or the position of the pieces, but in the endgame it's very important to be aware of the impact of exchanges. Often the decision is straightforward. For instance, it may be along the lines of exchanging a knight for a bishop in order to gain the bishop pair, or exchanging off a bishop if all your pawns are fixed on squares the same color as that which the bishop moves on. But it's also necessary to be on the lookout for less clear exchanges. This first example was played by Bobby Fischer in his candidates match against Tigran Petrosian at Buenos Aires in 1971. Fischer had white and open with e4, and I'm just going to skip forward to the part I want to discuss. Petrosian played the Sicilian defense anyway, with c5, and the game continued as follows. King's Crush has done a detailed analysis of this game if you'd like to see some more in-depth analysis of the game. And Petrosian now has an isolated queen's pawn, and the queens come off, and now as b4 is creating an outpost for this knight here at c5, which played on the next move. And now bishop d7, and here we've arrived at the point of interest, because here Fischer played knight takes d7 check, which was surprising to many people at the time, because Fischer gave up his strongly placed knight for Petrosian's comparatively poor bishop after rook takes d7. But the point is that Fischer was following the aforementioned advice of Tarash, because looking at the pieces remaining on the board, it's clear that white has a big edge with not only a bishop against the knight, but also control of both the open files after his next move, rook c1. And in addition, there's now no way for Petrosian to stop Fischer from penetrating to either the 6th or the 7th rank with his rook here on c1, and Petrosian was so concerned about a penetration to the 6th rank that he played rook d6 to stop it, allowing rook c7. And from here, in his usual style of superb accuracy, Fischer was able to wear Petrosian down until the pressure became too much. Play continued knight d7, rook e2, g6, king f2, just bringing his king to the center as the end game is going to be coming soon. Now h4, f5, h4, king f3, and f5, which is typically cryptic play from Petrosian. It's unclear what he was trying to achieve with these pawn moves, except perhaps to get them off to 7th rank, so they're no longer targets for this powerfully placed rook at c7. And if he ever tries to challenge Fischer's e-file control with rook e8, then rook takes e8, followed up with rook a7 to pressurize the a pawn, and then a4 will give white a big edge. So king e3, now d4 check, king d2, and knight b6, which is a weak move from Petrosian, but it's not easy to find a better way for black to defend. If he does nothing, then Fischer will simply close in for the kill. One plan, as before, is to create a passed pawn on the queen's side, tie black down to defending against its queening, and mopping up the king's side pawns to create a second weakness, and it put the defense under too much pressure to be able to deal with. And now Fischer is able to penetrate with both rooks to the 7th rank with rook e7. And knight d5 isn't a problem because of rook f7 check. King e8 is the only move here. King g8 would be losing material. And seemingly white has lost a pawn here, but it's completely inconsequential, because now he has rook b7, which is threatening rook h7 and rook h8 mate. And Petrosian now blundered, thinking he could defend with knight e6 in the event of rook h7 after knight takes f4, which is what he played. But Now he's losing at least a piece with a very nice move from Fischer that forced Petrosian to resign. If you want to try and spot it, then stop the video now. Bishop c4 is the move, and bishop c2 was also easily winning. This is stronger than rook h7 because after knight e6, although white still has a big edge, it's nowhere near as crushing. If rook h7, then knight f8 defends against the mate threat. But after bishop c4, now knight e6 won't work as a defense because there's a rook f e7 check, which is winning the knight here, because now the bishop is attacking it as well. And in actual fact, there's no way for Petrosian to defend against the rook of h7 to h8, and he can't bring his knight back to defend effectively, and in the meantime he'll have to give up his knight in order to stop himself from being mated. So it's no wonder that Petrosian resigned, and it was a fine example of making the correct exchange from the legend Bobby Fischer. Our next example is not quite so famous. This position was reached by one-time FIDE world champion Alexander Kalifman in a game against the Dutch Grandmaster Luc van Wely in Ter Apel 1997. Directly out of the opening, which was a King's Indian defense, Kalifman initiates a series of exchanges culminating in a brilliant conception that leads by force to a promising endgame. Here he began the process of simplification with bishop takes d6, and to gain back the pawn, black must now exchange pieces with knight f takes e4, and now the correct move is counterintuitive for white. If you want to try and spot it, then again stop the video now. Bishop takes e4 is the best and strongest continuation for white. Playing instead knight takes c4, which is the only other viable continuation in order to play for an edge, loses to knight takes c4, rook takes c4, rook takes c4, bishop takes c4, and bishop takes d4. And if white now tries c5, hoping to break the lines of communication between the bishop and its protection by the queen, now black has queen b4. Playing instead bishop takes c5 loses to bishop takes c5, queen takes c5, and queen takes d7. So queen b4 and now a3. Seems like it might work, but it's a mistake after bishop takes f2 check, discovering an attack on the undefended bishop at e4. So king takes f2 and now queen takes e4 with a big edge for black. So taking with the bishop first on e4 is correct, despite giving up the crucial fianchettoed bishop. In actual fact, white will be able to win it back anyway, although that isn't completely clear at the moment when he exchanges off his important bishop. To get back to the game continuation anyway, bishop takes e4 is the move that Kalifman played. After knight takes c4, rook takes c4, rook takes c4, knight takes c4, came queen takes d4, which is correct and forced. If instead here bishop takes d4, now c5 would be winning for white, as here has a knight here on e4 as opposed to a bishop. So if black continues as in the last continuation with queen b4, after a3, if bishop takes f2 check, this knight takes f2, and white has a big advantage, so black is forced to exchange queens instead at this stage. So queen takes d4, now queen takes d4, bishop takes d4, rook d1 attacking the bishop, and bishop g7 is best. And now comes the crux of Kalifman's entire plan, which he must have seen 6 moves before or during his home preparation. If you want to try and spot it, then stop the video now. Bishop b8 is the move, and the point is that it more or less forces the exchange of black's light squared bishop for white's dark squared bishop, and it's especially important to note that bishop takes h3, which is something that Van Wely may have been planning if not for this bishop b8 maneuver, now loses to rook d8 check, forcing bishop f8. Now knight f6 check, king g7 because the king's tied to defending the bishop, but now knight e8 check, king g8, and knight c7 traps the rook, which is going to win the exchange and the game. So it's a brilliant move. Bishop b8 from Caliph Man is a great conception. Okay, that's the end of part 1.